I want you to think about the last time you sat down and read a book for pleasure. Not for school, not because you had to, just because you wanted to. How long ago was that? Now think about this. In 1984, 35% of 13-year-olds said they read for fun almost every day. By 2023, that number had dropped to just 14%. More than half of teenagers today almost never read for pleasure. We are witnessing the slow death of deep reading, and the consequences go far beyond just books. Today, I'm here to argue that social media is fundamentally changing our brains. It is making us less capable of sustained thoughts, critical analysis, and meaningful engagement with complex ideas. Deep reading matters, and we need to protect it. Deep reading is not just decoding words on a page. As neuroscientist Marianne Wolf explains, deep reading is sustained engagement with a long form text. When you give your complete attention to a challenging book, your brain activates a wide range of cognitive abilities. You draw connections between the text and what you already know, generate your own thoughts, and you develop empathy by stepping into another person's perspective. Deep reading requires sustained, unbroken attention. It allows people to make their own associations, draw their own conclusions, and develop their own ideas. It is the foundation of critical thinking. But here's the problem. This ability is disappearing. In 2021, American adults read fewer books than in any year on record. Even university students now struggle to read a 20-page article from start to finish. One instructor noted that not a single one of his students could get through an assigned reading, with one student admitting they kept losing track of what it was about. This evidence is everywhere. 12th grade reading scores are at their lowest level since assessment began in 1992. Nearly a third of students score below the basic level, meaning they cannot draw general conclusions from a text. This is a crisis. So, what is drawing this decline? The answer is social media. The platforms we use every day are designed to encourage short, fragmented reading. We scan headlines, scroll through captions, and jump rapidly between apps. And this is not accidental, it is by design. Studies show that when we read online, we enter an environment that promotes hurried, distracted thinking and superficial learning. The digital world rewards quick consumption, not sustained attention. Research confirms this. A review examining the impact of social media on reading found that around 40% of studies identify negative effects, such as distraction, short attention spans, and shallow reading habits. The fragmented, fast paced format of social media, designed for quick consumption, was found to hinder the ability to sustain focus on long or complex text. Frequent multitasking between social media and academic reading reduce comprehension and retention. Even the way we read matters. Research comparing reading on screens versus paper found that more frequent reading of short text on screens lead to less inclination to engage in deeper thinking about the meaning of a text. In other words, screen reading encourages skimming and scanning rather than careful, thoughtful reading. And these habits do not stay confined to our screens. They shape our thinking in deeper ways. When we read online, we are repeatedly distracted by notifications, links, and pop ups, each distraction rewarded with a tiny surge of dopamine. This is the same mechanism social media uses to keep us scrolling. The mental endurance required for deep reading is eroding. Teachers and professors are seeing it firsthand. Many students no longer read, they scan. Their working memory is so overloaded that instead of pulling information together or thinking deeply, they're just trying to manage the flood of information coming at them. This approach crowds out reflection, creativity, critical analysis, and empathy. When the capacity for deep reading disappears, so does the capacity for deep thinking. Here is a problem. A society that cannot read deeply cannot think deeply. Without deep reading, complex ideas become harder to grasp. Misinformation spreads more easily because people do not have the patience to check sources carefully. Empathy declines because people no longer immerse themselves in the lives and perspectives of others. Sustained thoughts become difficult because brains are trained for distraction. Some scholars argue this is even more worrying. They suggest that the decline of deep reading is pushing us back towards an oral culture, a way of thinking and communicating that existed before widespread literacy. In this view, reading and writing laid the foundations for democracy and rational thinking. Now, as deep reading declines, so too does the ability to think for ourselves and engage with different viewpoints. Whether or not you accept that argument, one thing is clear: something essential is disappearing. and we need to change this. First, we need to be aware. Understanding how digital reading affects our brains can help us change our habits. Just pausing before accepting information can reduce vulnerability to misinformation. Taking a few extra seconds to think critically can counteract the false sense of truth created by repeated exposure. Second, we need to prioritize deep reading. This means sticking with a single text for longer periods, engaging with different perspectives, reading novels which open you up to new ways of seeing the world. Third, schools need to bring back sustained reading. Teachers should guide students through longer texts paired with active discussions to reinforce understanding. Deep reading techniques have been shown to help students master class reading and improve their writing. So let me leave you with this. Deep reading is not a luxury. It is not an outdated hobby. It is essential to how we think, how we learn, and how we engage with the world. Without it, thinking becomes shallow, understanding becomes surface level, and engagement with the complexity becomes impossible. We can choose to read differently. We can choose to put down our phones and we can choose to pick up a book. We can choose to pay attention. The future does not belong to those who can scroll the fastest. It belongs to those who can think the deepest. And if we let social media take that, we have already lost. Thank you.